Morning, everyone. It's Pastor Dan. I wanted to record a few thoughts for you today. It's May 2nd, so I've been really away from all of you for about 2 months now. I really haven't gotten to see any of you at this point since Ezra was born and then we were put on quarantine. It's meant that I haven't gotten to see any of you, and I miss you a lot, but I'm thankful for this opportunity that I can continue to talk about God's Word and that we can reflect a little bit together. This year, I'm going through the book of Mark slowly in my own personal time. I'm reading other books as well, but the book of Mark was really important for me to go through this year because it teaches us what does it mean to follow Jesus. It teaches us what Jesus taught about himself and about his kingdom, but also how do we follow him as his people. And a passage that I've run across a couple of times that always sticks out to me is Mark 10, starting in verse 42. It says, "And Jesus called to him and said to them, 'You know that those who are considered rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many.'" The context of what Jesus is teaching about is that James and John have come and requested that they would sit at Jesus' left hand and at his right hand, and those were like the positions of greatest popularity and power. It meant that they were Jesus's favorite, and they could look to him and ask more quickly than anyone else what they wanted of him. And so they were wanting positions of power, and Jesus rebukes his disciples who begin quarreling over this. And Jesus tells them, that's not the way that things work in my kingdom. That's not the way that things will work among you. Whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. And Jesus here is setting a pattern of servanthood, is what it means to be a disciple, that we would become a servant, a slave to all, that we would be willing to help and care for the needs of others more than our own needs. We come not to be served, but to serve, and that's to follow after Jesus's pattern. And we know that Jesus gave himself up in service to save his people. And so we likewise are called to love others and consider their needs as important, and so help them. And so right now, during quarantine, you're stuck with your families a lot, and you maybe see your neighbors some, and I would encourage you to be reminded of what it means to live in Jesus' kingdom. It means putting others' needs before your own. It means loving them and trying to help them whenever it wouldn't maybe benefit you the most. That's kind of what this whole quarantine time is about anyway, is that a lot of us are probably not at risk for the most dangerous parts of this virus that's going around, but it's to help those around us, to love them well. So I would encourage you to be looking for opportunities to show the love of Christ, the self-sacrificial love of Christ to your family and to your neighbors. And that might mean something as simple as letting your little brother watch the show that he wanted to watch. It might mean helping cook some meals for your family. It might mean taking out the trash or mowing the lawn of your neighbor. But I want you to be thinking about how you can be showing the love of Christ, and that you are living in his kingdom even now. Again, those passages were from Mark 10. So go over those, talk about them with your parents, and I would encourage you to think about those opportunities that you may have. I love you and I miss you, and I hope to see you soon.